Afternoon, respected senior government officials, industry leaders, and institute delegates. A warm welcome to the World Bank Group powered session at Bharat Tex 2026. India's textiles and apparel sector is entering a new era where competitiveness is driven not just by cost, but also by sustainability, circularity, innovation, traceability, and agility. As global expectations evolve, the industry must strengthen these capabilities to remain competitive and future ready. Today's sessions bring together leaders from government, industry, global brands, and technology and development institutions to discuss how India can accelerate this transition and strengthen its position in global value chain. We are honored to have with us Mr. Rohit Kansal, Secretary, Department of Rural Development, Government of India, who will chair today's session. Mr. Kansal is a senior civil servant from Indian Administrative Service and has held several challenging public policy assignments in diverse sectors, including clean energy, infrastructure, textiles, fashion, and sustainability. He has also led key infrastructure departments, including power and energy, public investments, roads, planning, and communication. So, thank you so much for gracing us today for chairing this session today. Before I invite our respected chair, moderator, and distinguished panelist on the stage, I have a brief opening presentation to set the context for today's session. May I request Ms. Nishat Shahid Chaudhary, Program Lead, International Finance Corporation, to kindly come forward for the opening presentation.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair, Mr. Rohit Kansal, Secretary, Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India, distinguished guests, industry leaders, and fellow panelists. And thank you for joining us today. I would like to begin with a simple question. What will drive textile and apparel sector competitiveness in future? Is it cost? Cost efficiency will remain, but global brands are increasingly looking at sustainability performance, quality, traceable products, and also reliable suppliers and resilient supply chain. And this shift creates an opportunity for India. It's not only for increasing the export, but also to scale up and move up the value chain and support more MSMEs, create jobs, position itself as a preferred sourcing destination for future-ready textile and apparel industry. Now I would like to share a few reflections of World Bank Group's global experience on how sustainability and circularity can strengthen the textile and apparel industry. Globally, the textile and apparel sector employs millions of jobs, and mainly particularly the women and young workers are employed in this sector. And when the sector grows sustainably, it increases income and community strengthens the communities and supports the broader economic development. And this directly aligns with World Bank Group mission, that is creating jobs, reducing poverty, and improving lives. And this is why textile and apparel industry is a priority sector for World Bank Group. And today, the World Bank Group is working as a one World Bank Group to maximize the development impact. And what does it mean for the textile apparel sector? This allows us to support the entire ecosystem, from policy reform and infrastructure to factory modernization and access to finance. And IFC, we are the private sector arm of World Bank Group, and we mainly focus on helping businesses to finance, grow, and become competitive. Through our work in Asia, Africa, and Middle East, as well as in Latin America, we have seen some same pattern. Companies, those invest in sustainability or circularity, they become more competitive. They reduce waste, they reduce water and energy consumption, improve productivity, and they also become more resilient to shocks. And let me share an example from Bangladesh. More than a decade ago, Bangladesh textile and apparel sector faced with series of challenges. Industry was using water indiscriminately, and groundwater level was depleting every year 2.5 meters. And an industry was facing 68 power outages per month. And factories were struggling to modernize because of access to finance. Our working condition was an issue. There were several accidents, fire accidents, and also building collapsed. And these were the market barrier for the competitiveness. As a consequence, brands, they wanted to work with factories, those comply socially and environmentally. And factories really wanted to improve, and they didn't know how to do it. So this became an opportunity. IFC, government of Bangladesh, then the international brand, those are sitting here, Levi's, Puma, H&M, CNA, many Swedish brands, and many other brands, they joined together. And they developed the PACT program, Partnership for Cleaner Textile program, to address the challenges. And PACT program worked with more than 400 factories in Bangladesh, and the program actually provided advisory on cleaner production to reduce the environmental impact and resource consumption of the Bangladesh's textile and apparel industry. And this helped the local suppliers to meet the standards required by the global brands. And the program achieved impressive result. Participating factories reduced greenhouse gas emission around 700,000 tons per year, and also saved cumulatively about 35 million cubic meters of water annually. And 5 policy reforms were implemented. And this actually increased the confidence of the global brands. And the brand stayed, and businesses grew in Bangladesh. Sustainability is not about saving water, reducing carbon emission and energy. It is also about people. So parallelly, when we developed the Partnership for Cleaner Textile program, ILO and IFC, we also designed another program called Better Work Program, and mainly addressing the working standards and working condition and labor standards. And right now, we are supporting the factories in improving working condition and workplace practices. Right now, Better Work Program are in 11 countries. We have reached out to 200 brands, and 2,200 factories, more than 2,200 factories are involved. Under the Better Work Program, we have another initiative called GEAR. And GEAR actually supports women career progression in apparel industry. Across 4 countries, more than thousands workers in 180 factories receive leadership training, out of which 65% were promoted to supervisory role. The lesson is very simple. When we invest in people, businesses become stronger. And these learnings can be replicated. So India is already possesses all the ingredients to become a future-ready textile hub. What happened? Future-ready textile hub. It has a strong ecosystem, number one, and large manufacturing base, deep global brand relationship, and approximately 45 million people have jobs in this sector. And India has set an ambitious target to increase textile and apparel export. Achieving this vision requires more than capacity expansion. And India has a unique opportunity to lead this next chapter. And with that, I want to conclude and my presentation and hear from the panelists about the market expectation and future direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Nishit, for that insightful presentation. We now move to the main panel discussion. May I now request our chair, moderator, and panelists to kindly join us on stage. Firstly, I would like to invite Mr. Rohit Kansal, Secretary, Department of Rural Development, Government of India. Our moderator, Ms. Tanvi Tukral, Private Sector Specialist from World Bank. Our esteemed panelist, Mr. Alok Mishra, Group Head, Sustainability from Wellspun Group. Mr. Anuj Bishnoi, Founder and CEO from Rapid.ai. Mr. Archak Patnaik, Team Head, Environmental Sustainability from Puma Group. Ms. Nidhi Dua. Let them sit first. Ms. Nidhi Dua, Vice President, Product Development and Sourcing from Levi's. Mr. Sundar Senthilathan, Head of Public Affairs from H&M Group. Dr. Saurav Kumar, General Manager from Apparel's Export Promotion Council. Thank you. We are delighted to have such an accomplished panel with us today. With that, it is my pleasure to hand over the session to our chair and moderator.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, Saloni, and thank you all the panelists and to Rohit sir for gracing us today with his presence. I understand he has a very busy schedule, but we're really thankful that you could make it, and it would be really inspiring for us to also hear from you. With your permission, sir, we would like to start the session. Maybe let's start with aspirations. If I can open with a question to all the panelists and ask if there's one capability that India needs to build, just one capability that we need to focus on to improve our competitiveness and strengthen our position in the global value chains. What is that one capability you suggest that we should focus and aim towards by 2030? Maybe we can start with Senthil, Ms. Sundar.
Pretty difficult one. I mean, it's not going to give a one-word answer, honestly. It has to be a combination of capabilities, capacities, capacity, scale, and consistency, and sustainability, of course, which I think India is doing pretty well at this point in time.
Yeah, I think, like Senthil mentioned, the answer cannot be in one word. But if I were to summarize, I would say that we should become best in class in whatever we do. So if it's sustainability, I'd like us to be best in class. If it's cost efficiency, I'd like us to be best in class. So I think if we have that mindset and if we are wearing that hat of being best in class, the job will be done.
I think, Tanmeet, the answer is absolutely right, because the world looks at us for multiple things. So it's not just one aspect that will really work. The first one that we need to do is, of course, manufacture world-class products, meeting expectations around. But at the same time, I think what's also on radar is products which are manufactured sustainably. So I think we have a very big opportunity, and we should look at integrating sustainability within manufacturing processes so that we meet both capabilities that the world is looking at.
Yeah, I believe we have multiple brands in our country who have been doing and who have been contributing fantastically well. It is very important, of course, when it comes to quality, it comes to cost competitiveness, and rest of the other features. Now is the time when we build a digital trust and be very, very competitive, as at the same time we should be future ready. From the whole exporters point of view, we have many compliances coming up and we should be ready with that.
For a very long time, we have been cotton-based apparel manufacturing country, while the global demand is shifting towards synthetic MMF apparel. So in the next few years, we have to invest a lot in the MMF segment. Thankfully, we do have a PLI scheme thanks to Kansal sir and Ministry of Textiles, and a lot of new projects are coming up in there, and very soon we will be able to catch up with the shifting trends.
Yeah, I agree with the speakers. But if you see a Pima point of view, like it's a market for Pima, India is one of the leading sports brand in the country. Whereas not in the other countries or globally, like if you see, our competitors are much bigger. So to see that perspective, we need to strengthen more local to local sourcing in Pima suppliers, and as well as I look at quality as well as sustainability and circularity. These are the key things where we ramp up. And unlike other countries, we have a lot of potential to source renewable energy, and I think it's much easier to source in India as compared to other countries. So with these thoughts, we look forward to the panel discussion.
So I think I'll start with you, Archak, because you mentioned about local sourcing and also from Puma's perspective. We all know that big brands are working towards their sustainability commitments, climate commitments. And those commitments will also follow the vendors across the value chain that you work with, right? So for brands like you, you have your own commitments, you're working on your own plans, but it also raises expectations from the vendors that you're procuring from, right? So if you can share what are the concrete expectations from the suppliers across the value chain from renewable energy perspective, resource efficiency perspective, and responsible sourcing perspective.
Thank you. So if you see closely the apparel sector, or I can say apparel and footwear sector to include Pima in the discussion. So the major sustainability challenge is climate change, I can say. That is the top priority sustainability topic for Pima. It's not only a sustainability topic. It is integrated with business at Pima. If you see our investors, our customers, they are very closely looking at our commitments. And not only commitments, how we are progressing with respect to those commitments on a year and year. And if you see closely the GHG emissions pattern, the 90% is with upstream supply chain. So that means if the brands has to achieve their targets, mainly the scope 3 targets, it cannot be by brand's own operations. It is not simply possible. The 90% efforts has to come from the supplier side. So looking at that, we have released our Vision 2030 goals in 2025. And when it comes to climate, it's revolved around science-based target. The science-based target has a component of our own operation, 90% reduction by 2030 with respect to 2017 baseline. But the major target is the scope 3, that is the 33% absolute reduction by 2030 with the 2017 baseline. So our expectation from suppliers is to set targets. Not only Pima sets targets for itself, but suppliers also set ambitious targets themselves. So the major suppliers, they participate in science-based target, even if Cascale's MCAP program, which is mainly focusing on scope 1 and scope 2 of the supplier. And then we also expect supplier to participate in the cleaner production program, like Nishat mentioned. We have been closely working with IFC for PAC program in Bangladesh. We worked with Vietnam improvement program. We worked with Cambodia program. And similarly, we also worked with Apparel Impact Institute Clean by Design program in certain countries. The third expectation would say the renewable energy. If you have to achieve decarbonization at scale, it is definitely important to have a renewable energy. So be it rooftop solar, be it DPP or open access, we call it in India, or even green tariff. And as a last option, they can also go for renewable energy certificates. And then, of course, the phase out the coal wherever it is possible. And we have a very concrete target to phase out coal by 2030. Come to circularity, we expect the suppliers to have waste management, recycle and reuse as much as possible, and also traceability is also equally important to know where the materials are coming from. And of course, on the human rights fronts, it has moved out like the compliance. The audits is very common these days, but you have to move into human right due diligence, be it like the living wage progression. So these are the new things coming in the social and responsible sourcing sector. To summarize, my thought is like it's not just about compliance. Our expectation will be to co-own the targets and transition with us with a roadmap backed by data and backed by resources.
Thank you for sharing that long list of expectations from the vendors. I think I'll move to Nidhi now, because I think she is looking at sourcing not just from India but from across South Asia and globally. I think Archak already shared a long list of expectations that come along. From your perspective, when you are looking at sourcing, what are the emerging factors that you look at beyond cost? And I think the main question is how brands like yours can work with smaller players, MSMEs, to bring those capabilities into them to actually adhere to all these expectations that comes along, right? So what role can brands like yours play in supporting MSMEs and meeting these capabilities?
Correct. So I think the list that Archak shared is the same for us. So I'm not going to go through that list. All I'm going to say is ditto. So, well, I would be very honest and say that when we are looking for a supplier, we go to them and see that what are their product capabilities. that they can bring to the table? And are there any wide gaps in our range, in our collection for our consumers that they're able to address? So that's really the, I would say, one single point that we are reaching out to the suppliers. And once we reach the supplier and we feel that it can be a good marriage, you know, they're bringing to the table in terms of product and cost competitiveness, like what we're looking for. And to us, the most important thing is the intention. Like, does the supplier have the right intention? They may not be there on the sustainability map, circularity map. They may not be conforming to our goals or our 2030 plan. But what is most important to us is the intention. And if they have the intention, we absolutely collaborate with them and we partner with them and we guide them. And it applies to all MSMEs. We even work with very small size vendors, but like I said, it's really whether you're meeting a product requirement and you have the intention to onboard all those sustainability requirements, you know, that works for us.
If you can add on the second part, how you're collaborating and providing any knowledge transfers, are there any partnerships that you have with smaller players?
Yeah, so like, you know, we are helping our partners with digital roadmaps. So like, you know, we have I would say we are at a vantage point where we work with small, big suppliers, suppliers who are at the leading edge of technology and suppliers who are not, you know. So we often bring that knowledge to them. We also are, like if I talk particularly about sustainability, because that's the really underlying objective of this forum, we have a very, very big sustainability team. And we also partner with like IFC in a very, very big way. A lot of programs that Nishat mentioned, we're already partnering, like whether it's Better Works or it's Gear, we're already a partner with that. So we help our suppliers become partners. And I must say that a lot of these programs are actually funded by Levi's or they're co-funded by Levi's. So we are bringing them along the journey, but at the same time, not passing the financial burden on them. And I think that's what brings in a lot of acceptability for the program. And I would say that's where probably we are same or maybe we differ from a lot of retailers because we are absorbing that financial burden of running those programs.
I think you touched upon a very valid point that when smaller players have to invest in sustainability and circularity, they see it as a cost burden, right? They do not see it as a competitiveness building initiative that will give them long run returns. So I think with that, it gives them a comfort that a big brand is supporting and sharing the cost. But maybe I can pose this question to Mr. Mishra now, because we know that Wellspun has been taking a lot of initiatives on sustainability, right? And if you can share from your journey, how has those initiatives supported or helped build competitiveness for the company? So that smaller players can take inspiration and they can also see that it's not just a cost, but in the long run or in the medium run, there have been benefits that have been witnessed by larger players.
Great. I think, Tanvi, there's a lot to share in that sense because the journey has been long and I think we've traversed a fair distance in our space. So, you know, one thing that really stands out is maybe currently the world focusing so much on carbon. Everywhere it is coal phase out. And if I, just on that note, what Archak mentioned, you know, the list of expectation, I would say that he was kind enough to mention just a very small list of it, because on the receiver side, I am on the receiver side, and I know the list is very, very long. And in fact, it just keeps growing, if I can add that. You know, it keeps growing. And that's nice, I would say, because if we have to meet the world's expectation, I think the expectation is growing. The younger population is asking for more and more commitment. And I think that's where the manufacturing advantage comes to us. Provided, of course, we take it in the right spirit. If we want to do it more like a compliance job, then obviously we are defeating the purpose of it. And I think, and hence, not to boast about Wellspun, but I would certainly say is what differentiates Wellspun in the current market. When sustainability was opening up, and this concept, I would say, is sort of getting discussed in the boardrooms, what we did differently was that instead of focusing on just one or two aspects of sustainability, because sustainability is a huge, huge topic, we created and crafted a sustainability strategy which was very broad-based. It had elements on environment, it had elements of social, it had also elements on governance. So that we create a program that meets expectation not today, but also drives business in the future. Now, what has that led us to? You know, we are really proud to say that that consistent effort, that entire foundation being laid in these initial first 2-3 years, and then the pedal getting pushed on energy transition and probably on water circularity, waste circularity, you name it. I would say everything is there on the board for you to see. And the governance there so that everything is transparently shared with anybody and whoever is interested. We achieved, which we are very proud of, and I love to share that every conversation, that we became world's #1 ESG ranked company last year in textile and apparel space. And that came not because of one-dimensional progress. It came because we had this entire 360-degree view of sustainability. We crafted programs. Now that could always be debated whether it was slow or fast or whatever. But it tries to address sustainability from a very holistic perspective. And I think that's it what probably Wellspun can offer in terms of, let's say, if somebody is looking up to us. In fact, this year we also started a program with knowledge transfer to suppliers. While we are manufacturers, we are of course not retailers. Nonetheless, we still have a long supplier list. So we have started this partnership program on which we call as a step 0, because we also have some scope 3. Obviously, a lot of scope 3 comes to us because of the cotton that we use. The good part is that you would be happy to know that today we have transitioned from conventional cotton to sustainable cotton, and not by a small amount. Today I am at 95% sustainable cotton. And that takes off, I would say, about 1.5 lakh tons of CO2 straight from my books because of transitioning from a conventional cotton to sustainable cotton. On the manufacturing side, what we have done last 2, 3, 4 years is to build a very clear roadmap of how I want to move towards renewable energy. Coal phase out, he mentioned. Coal phase out is something that doesn't let us sleep. It's a very, very tough nut to crack. The electricity side is obviously very, I would say, clearly there. And I'm happy to share that this month we actually, for our biggest operations, we are shifting 100% to RE. But that's just half of the problem, because textiles also need a lot of thermal energy, and we are trying to find solutions for thermal energy. It is still not a solution that we have been able to crack it, but yes, we are trying out options, and biomass is obviously one of the very clear options that is there. So I think the investments we made in the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years have had an excellent business return, because we are seeing the expectation of buyers. We are seeing the brands talking about, and they are talking about because the customers behind them are talking about it. And that trend is certainly there and growing. So what it does for us is that all that we have done in sustainability is now translating into business. We are a partner of choice. We are doing what buyers expect, and probably one bit extra, because we are also, I would say, evolving in tandem with the expectations of the world. So I think it's a very clear message that the investments we make in sustainability might be, if you look at a very short-term view, they might appear as cost. But trust me, all of that really converts into big business, because sustainability is here and it is not going away.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's also inspiring for a lot of players and the smaller players in the room. But just to address the fact that if for a company like Wellspun, who's so big, if you find this list to be long, for smaller players, it would be exhausting. And that's bring me to a question of not looking at individual initiatives, but building an ecosystem. So maybe I'll pose this question to you, Sundar. What do you think are the capability gaps at ecosystem level where different stakeholders across the value chain, including the government, can come on board so that those gaps at ecosystem levels can be addressed and we can bring scale to the circularity and sustainability initiative? And I think Mr. Mishra also mentioned about decarbonization, which is key, and that can only come when you have the major part of the stakeholders, the government, coming on board and supporting, right? So what do you think are at ecosystem level are the initiatives and the capabilities that need to be built?
You know, for me, it's good that I'm sitting with peer companies who are extremely progressive, right? Okay, let me take that decarbonization bit, right? So if we look at our scope 3 emissions, within that scope 3 emissions, where is the most emissions happening, right? It's in the processing sector. That's where we're looking at 70 to 80%, your fabrics, dyeing, printing, etc. And that's where the boiler issue also comes in. And those are a bunch of larger and smaller players. It's a mix, right? Where when it comes to, say, you know, mid-scale players, of course, now with the threshold being revised, we are obviously working with a lot more SMEs than, say, a couple of years before. You know, we have our suppliers, especially in the tier 2, they have all shifted to biomass, right? Now, the question is not really one of willingness. They are willing, provided there is some kind of financial support and guidance. And this is where we believe that the industry needs to come together. Not just the folks who are sitting in this, but a larger coalition to come in and say, provide supplier finance. And that's where Apparel Impact Institute comes in, right? Then we also have, you know, the government of India has been very, very proactive. You know, I used to sort of interact regularly with Secretary Sir on this. The government of India has had not just schemes from the Textile Ministry point of view, but you also look at Aditi, which is again, you know, Bureau of Energy Efficiency scheme, which is again, you know, supporting MSMEs towards how do you electrify, how do you increase your energy efficiency, how do you put in water efficient infrastructure. That's again an ecosystem that you can build with. I think what we really need is now the state governments to come on board. I think Government of India is taking efforts in that direction as well. We also need a larger coalition of players. And also, if I may dare to say this, the manufacturers who are catering to, say, domestic brands, right? So it has to be a holistic nationwide effort and not just an export-oriented effort. Then otherwise it becomes a burden. But, you know, to sum it up, we need a collaborative supplier finance initiatives where you have MFIs, where you have the government funding, or also initiatives like companies like ourselves who give softer loans of sorts. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I think you touched upon a very important role that the state government also need to play, right? Because electricity is a state subject, and that's one of the core areas where everyone needs to work on when we look at decarbonization. You also mentioned about the domestic market. I think that's a huge market that India has, and we have to trap that opportunity as well, right? But we all know that we also have targets for exports, and even if we put all the initiatives in place, there needs to be access to market, right? And with that, maybe I'll pose this question to Dr. Saurabh. We know that India recently has signed many FTAs, free trade agreements, right? But from your point of view, are the MSMEs in India prepared to make full use of the opportunities that come along from export lens when we look at the FTAs? And what is needed at MSME level to actually trap that opportunity to the fullest?
Tanmeet, mere signing an FTA will not provide any significant result. Of course, it will provide the zero duty access and provide a level playing field in those markets, but to actually grab the market potential and to compete with the existing player like Bangladesh and Vietnam, there has to be significant changes which needs to be done at the factory level, at the industry level. As I mentioned earlier, the product diversification is must. Second, of course, sustainability, circularity, and traceability. These are becoming increasingly necessary in the Western market, particularly Europe, particularly UK, and within a few years, you will see that some of these regulations which or rules which are right now voluntary will become mandatory, whether it is ESPR, CDDD, etc., all those kind of things. The good news is that apparel industry is also gearing up to match that level. We at APC are also doing a lot of work and taking a lot of initiatives. Recently, we have signed an MOU with the GBCI to make our factories LEED certified. We are collaborating with the Green Story for a nationwide DPP drive. Similarly, we are also collaborating with a number of other non-government organizations to touch upon the different aspects of different segments of ESG so that not only the big players but also the micro units can get benefit. So industry is gearing up for that, and within the next few years you will see the substantial change.
I think all of us hope for that, and we are sure that all the initiatives that you're taking and the support that you're providing to the industry would lead to some tangible results, and we'll be able to make use of these FTAs that are coming into picture. I think with this, a question that comes into mind is on the digital trust that Anuj, you mentioned about. And I think with increasing expectations on traceability, digital and AI can play a big role in not just reporting, but also monitoring the performances so that MSMEs can track and improve, right? So according to you, how can and what tools from digital and AI can support in building that digital trust in the industry?
Very important aspect, Tanmeet. This opens up a lot of opportunity for me to, speak and put on a lot of light on the things that the fellow panelists have already spoken about. I would say, it's a huge opportunity in front of us as a country, because of course we are prepared from the manufacturing point of view. Now it's very, very, very important that we are having absolutely data-backed evidences and proofs for the promises that we have been doing. Now the markets are changing. It's dynamic, that every buyer, be it in Europe, be it in any other continent, is asking for no more promises. They want absolute evidence. They want complete 360-degree traceability. We talk about cradle to cradle, and that's exactly what we have built it for country. In fact, happy to share that we did a MOU thanks to, of course, the government. We did a MOU yesterday in Bharat Tex event with Textile and Control Union together, because it becomes extremely important that the entire MSMEs, SMEs are prepared. When I'm talking about preparedness, I'm talking about starting from data, because everything that everyone spoke about is, multiple things have been happening in the industry. But it is very, very important that the evidence now is there to prove what we have been speaking. So that's exactly what infrastructure can bring in. And it's very, very important that we get most of the support from the industry leaders. And of course, that is when we will see the suppliers across tiers, that is tier 2 to tier 5, would come in, on board and should be able to be ready. What we say is future readiness when it comes to compliances, come to reporting, and of course, the most important piece is the continuous monitoring system. So we have a continuous monitoring system as well, which can fetch the data directly live from the factories, from down from the ground, in any format, and we have got the patent as well for that. And very happy that we have launched this, and because of the Texpro Seals vision, that is Dr. Siddhartha and Dr. Binoy, we could onboard multiple, of course, large players like Arvind, we have Pearl Global, we have Sulochana. We tried in different segments, and the story has come out really well. And now is the time when phase 2, we will be talking more about how to onboard the SMEs and open it for the supply chain, the entire value chain rather, for the whole industry.
Thank you, and congratulations on your MOU.
Thank you so much.
I think we touched upon a lot of aspects today. We talked about scale, we talked about sustainability, we talked about digital trust. One point that we started with when Nishit started talking was on jobs, right? And with the sector evolving and with an increasing focus on sustainability and circularity, and this question is for everyone, whoever wants to answer, what new roles in the sector do you think from jobs and skills perspective would be emerging, and how can India prepare its workforce, right? Because there would be new roles. With technology coming into picture, there would be new skills required from hiring perspective. So what do you think are the new roles and skills that would be required in the sector as the sector transforms? And how can India work towards preparing its workforce? So, do you want to start?
Maybe I can kick it off. Three things. One, fiber diversification is underway, right? So we will have a lot of alternative next-gen fibers, either from biomaterials or from textile to textile recycled fiber. So that would mean, across the value chain, there would be changes. So that would mean, again, you will have a new set of jobs because of circularity. And also you will have skill upgradation across the value chain. That's one. Second, there is going to be at some point in time a transformation in the boiler technology. Right now, I think we're touching 130, 120 to 130, but there are prototypes available which can go up to 180 and beyond. I mean, in fact, some of our own startups, Indian startups, are doing this in IIT Madras and stuff. So it's only a matter of time. So therefore, how do you manage those, electrified boilers? That's again another set of manufacturing technologies. Those skills are also going to emerge. I'll stop here because these are the two main things that I foresee coming up.
Okay, so I'll add on to what Senthil mentioned. So I would say that a lot of the compliance and audit job that was done in the past is now kind of getting integrated, at least that's the feeling I get, into the way of working of a factory. And no longer, they need to be audited and monitored to that level on basic compliances. But what would be needed now, and sometimes I find it quite exhausting myself to understand, the different rules and regulations and requirements. Like France would have a digital passport, some one country would have something, there's RSL list, there's OCODEX. So I think somebody who can simplify all these and tell a basic manufacturer that what does he need to do to make sure that he conforms to that, So I think that's going to be very, very important. Somebody who can play the role of simplification, somebody who can play the role of capacity building. And I think that that job would sit with everybody. It would sit with brands, it would sit with consultants, it would sit with people within the organization that can work with them and say, okay, I know this is coming, this is going to help you capacity build. And thirdly, I would say that these things are here to stay. And Archak came up with that list, and Alok, you mentioned the list is getting longer. So I think it just tells a story that these things are here to stay. And it's not going to be an eyewash. Transparency is the key. So somebody who can really instill that into the organization and take the organization along on that journey, I think is really going to be key, because this is reality. 2030, we talk about a lot of things and goals we have to achieve in 2030, but that's a reality. If you're not there in 2030, you're out of the game, and then there's no falling back option. So I would say that reality needs to sink in as well. So I'm going to pass over to Alok. Yeah.
I think it's a very exciting space now with purely sustainability program or sustainability guys who understand the spectrum. And as I say that, I am very mindful that it's not a small domain, it's a fairly wide spectrum. So what starts with Sundar saying about, the technology, the manufacturing aspects, but actually it also begins even beyond a little bit. It begins right from people understanding sustainable farming, because sourcing is being now for a sustainable resource. So when it starts there, it requires people who understand sustainable farming, impacts of what you do on the farm, because the carbon starts its journey from the resource there. So it starts from there. What requires now is technology, which probably what Anuj mentioned about the traceability aspects, which is very important now. So you require that kind of skill set as well. Manufacturing, one very critical thing comes here is probably the chemicals which are being used in textiles, which are not going away. Now there's a huge impact which comes, and one of the key things chemicals drive is the requirement of thermal energy. There's a huge potential if we could come up with chemicals which can do the job at lower temperatures, because then you are addressing water challenge as well as the energy challenge. That's a huge area of research and probably a progress that would certainly happen in the next 4 or 5 years, because there's a lot of focus, a lot of companies working in the area. Move ahead up, I think you require people who can integrate everything and take it to the world, because they have to see not in bits and pieces. They want to see the story as one single story as to how the impact is being created. And then, of course, you require designers, you require, because everything is changing. So I'm excited.
I'm sure we all are. I check, and I think we are running a little
Sort of time.
yeah.
Okay. So I'll be short. Yeah, most of the points are already covered by you all. I could say circularity is one area which will be crucial for sourcing. If you see all the brands, they have say circular products or recycled product targets or next gen material targets. So suppliers who have secured those supply at scale and also able to maintain the quality. It should not be like it's a sustainable product, but the quality is not up to the mark. So that's absolutely not acceptable for the brands. So I could say like, yeah, it's a recycled product or bio-based product, but with same performance requirement. I think that is one key for future sourcing and decision making.
I would say it is combination of many aspects, but 3 points, of course, Nidhi touched upon and Alokji spoke about. I would say it is about readiness in the country. MSMEs needs to have extreme, hand-holding to be done, wherein they are prepared for when the brands like, we have Puma, we have H&M, we have Levi's, we have multiple expectations from the suppliers. So it is very important that, technology or capacity building, as Nidhi spoke about, it should come together. And when it works together, that is when we will be able to move much faster. That's exactly what the intention of Repute.ai is, coming in collaboration with TextProsil, who becomes a knowledge partner, bringing awareness to the proper, be it the exporters, manufacturers, and so on and so forth. At the same time, we have Control Union, who is going to be doing, auditing, certifications, and bring in that aspect of capacity building, right? So we see that in the next 3 years, we are absolutely ready. Now in the last 15 days, we onboarded 10, large brands in the country and onboarded close to about, more than 150 supply chain partners. That brings that, it is very important that how technology is going to play a role where things become extremely easy for the partners. So we have created this technology, which is, starting from data collection, next is, how do they monitor? Because the aspect that monitoring becomes a great cost in front of the organization, and that directly impacts their the top line. So it's important that they feel that if they continuously monitor, they can actually save cost, right? So definitely we are here to prepare and handhold. Very happy to collaborate.
Apart from quality and compliance related training and skilling, I think we will be needing skilling in those product segments where there is a growing demand in the global market. For example, athleisure wear, swimwear, all those kind of winter wear, all those kind of things. Where having a training of making cotton t-shirt and cotton shirt will not suffice in the long term. So skilling program needs to be altered. One, of course, incorporating the ESG quality and all those aspects, and second, for those different specialized product segments.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar, for that. I think we are running a little late, so we'll not open the floor for questions. I'm really sorry if you had any. But I'll hand over now to Rohit sir for his closing reflections, please.
Thank you, Tanmeet, and thank you all the panelists for a very engaging and interesting discussion. I think over the past 1 hour, we've had discussions and reflections from a cross-section of people. We have the brands here, we have APC represented here, we have suppliers who they say are on the other side of the table, and of course we have the World Bank who's been working with most of them. So what are the key messages which stand out from this discussion? To my mind, I read 5 messages. What is the first one? Competitiveness is no longer borne by cost alone. Buyers will increasingly be looking for suppliers who can not just provide the best costs, but also quality, reliability, agility, traceability, sustainability. What is the second message? Sustainability is no longer a standalone agenda or a parallel process that is going on. And I think it was probably Nidhi who said that sustainability is no longer a compliance requirement. It's actually a core strategy which is woven into the fabric of the business itself. So cleaner production, decarbonization, responsible material use are no longer sideshows. They are very much integral to the main process. I think a third point which has been spoken of peripherally, but not in as much of detail, is the increasingly large role of technology. Sundar made some reference to boilers, but I'd like to expand this concept to say that it's not just technology as in technology, but also artificial intelligence, digital traceability, which Anuj spoke about. So these are increasingly becoming important in the way digital product passports are going to be made, going to be seen, in traceability. AI is going to look at quality, resource optimization, production planning. So a lot of these technologies are and will increasingly become central to the entire process of production and the value chain. The fourth issue, which also found an echo in what the panelists said, is that circularity is no longer about managing waste alone. It's about integrated new value chains, recovering valuable resources, strengthening domestic recycling capacities, and converting material losses into economic values. So this in turn will require new technologies, new skills, and Tanmeet, the issue of new jobs. So while technology may take away some jobs, but these new trends which are emerging will lead to the emergence of another kind of jobs. So decarbonization is going to influence competitiveness, And by influencing competitiveness, it is going to influence market access. I think one issue which we really did not discuss so much for want of time was, how is India doing on all this? I think Senthil made a mention of the role of the government. Saurabh also made a mention of the role of the government. So in many ways, we are well positioned. And some of you who are really not familiar would be wondering why I am here today. So I spent 3 years in this sector, in this ministry, heading the ministry's ESG task force, where we brought together a large number of stakeholders under one tent. And one of the achievements of the task force was trying to work together with industry, with government, with academia, on how to advance the entire sustainability movement forward. And I think the lessons from the ESG task force, as also the lessons from today's panel, are, if there are 3 C's which will drive the sustainability agenda, whether it is from a buyer perspective, whether it is from a supplier perspective, the government perspective, it's collaboration, coordination, and convergence. So, and I think a mention was made of this fact, no single stakeholder can drive this transition alone. So, if Sundar and Nidhi provide better financing, supplier finance, softer finance, government will have to step in through regulations, technology providers like Anuj will have to come in with providing technology platforms. So the name of the game is collaboration. The second equally important aspect is, which I mentioned in the context of the ESG task force, is coordination. A lot of building blocks of the ecosystem, and somebody made a mention of the ecosystem here. So the building blocks of the ecosystem already exist. But how do you actually position these blocks together so as they are able to deliver the outcome? How do you connect these blocks through better aligned policies, integrated value chains, shared infrastructure? You made a very, very interesting point about multiplicity of certifications. Now, how do you bring together these multiplicity of certifications into, one India mark, which then becomes the gold standard of certification, which you will accept and you will accept and you will accept. But then that takes me back to convergence and coordination. You not only have to build that certification, you have to make sure that different brands who follow different standards agree to come together and accept the so-called single source of truth, and which is where organizations like yours come together to provide a digital platform for bringing together that single source of truth. And the third important thing is convergence. Programs, investments, technologies, finance, partnerships, government, World Bank, IFC, supplier finance has to actually come together into a sort of virtuous coalition in such a fashion that the whole becomes greater than the sum of the parts. So, if there are any lessons for India, I think the lessons are that we enter into this from a position of considerable strength. And I have spoken on other platforms before. Sustainability is not exogenous to us. We have a 3 billion year old history of sustainability. Many of the ancient Indian practices of repair, reuse are part of the Indian philosophical underpinning. So you're only translating an ancient ethic into a modern technology-driven philosophy. So in that sense, you enter this entire game with a huge advantage. But what you now need to do is that the efforts of industry, government, multilateral institutions have to converge into a virtuous cycle of collaboration. So from an Indian perspective, our ambition should be to, as I said, collaborate, converge, coordinate, put together the building blocks, align the building blocks which already exist into an ecosystem and position India as a sustainable producer at scale, which looks at sustainability not as compliance but as competitiveness. The only caveat being, and I think a point was mentioned here, since our ecosystem is MSME driven, how do you ensure that technological handholding, financial handholding for the MSMEs exists, so that compliance, sustainability does not leave a large number of players behind. So the one message is to bring all these people together through a public good. But I am extremely optimistic, and I think, Nidhi, I agree with you. Sustainability is here to stay. But I only want to add that I'm optimistic of the Indian ecosystem. I think it has in it the entire building block to emerge as a sustainable, competitive supplier. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and thank you to all the panelists.
Thank you so much, sir. And I think we did not touch on how India is doing on all this because we believe you are the best person in this room to talk about that. And that's the best that we left it to you in the end. So thank you so much for your time, sir. And we are all very hopeful and we all believe that India has the capabilities and we can strengthen our positioning with all the initiatives and support and collaboration. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you to all the panelists to be here. May I please request all the panelists just to say, and we'll just hand over a token of gift. And of course, we'll start with you, sir. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Hope you learned something and you're inspired to join us in the sustainability journey.